ESBR boxing. We're about myself and Paul Kelly. That means only one thing only. That means we're in preview mode, and we are here with a delicious fight. Actually, a world title fight that's taking place at super lightweight for the IBF, IBO, WBC, WBO titles. But before we go into that and talk about who we're describing, let me just say like and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, all your boxing needs under one roof. Check out, like I said, like and subscribe, follow for that for reviews, previews, and all that good stuff. But Paul, we are here. We are talking Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano this week. Obviously, taking place. Rematch taking place obviously at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Katie Taylor edging the first on UD. But what we're going to come down to, we'll talk a little bit about that sort of first fight. We'll obviously go into predictions, but I want to start off with a bit of a gut shot to you, Paul. Actually, to be perfectly honest with you, don't want to get too much into the the tale of the tape. These female fighters obviously well known to everyone. But what I want to ask you is actually about Katie Taylor. The simple question is this, Paul. To your mind, you're an Irishman as well, passionate Irishman, but is Katie Taylor the best female fighter of all time?
Oh, thanks for having me on. As always, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this fight for sure. That question is a tough one in the sense that, I think it's only really been since the emergence of Katie Taylor and maybe a couple of years before that that women's boxing's really become big time. Like we're seeing women fights regularly on these big shows, and now in Saudi Arabia and all included. America, all of the big ones in the UK, stadium fights. Obviously, this one, the co-main event, the Jake Paul and a certain Iron Mike Tyson as well, but we'll not get into that. But yeah, mate, I think Katie Taylor, that's right. So there's three for me that you can have as the best female fighter of all time. And that's not me disregarding fighters from yesteryear, who I maybe don't really know much about. But I think the general consensus is the best three female fighters of all time are Katie Taylor. This is in no particular order. Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, and Amanda Serrano, probably. So you got two of them fighting again. Um, so if you're having Serrano in there as a top three, you're gonna have to have Katie Taylor above her. Could she beat her the first time? That could change, obviously, depending on what happens on Friday night in Texas. But yeah, I'm going to say yes, mate, and that might come as a huge surprise to some people. No Irish or bias or anything there, but I think Clarissa Shields has an argument as well. She obviously calls herself she's the self-proclaimed quote. But I think Katie Taylor edges it for me well, I think there was more competitive in the divisions she's fighting in, to be honest. I think Clarissa Shields has obviously fought at those higher weights. And in my opinion, the depth isn't as strong in those higher weights, whereas around Katie Taylor's weights has been. She's a multiple weight world champion, Olympic gold medalist, so on and so forth. Just an incredible fighter, Katie Taylor. And I have her in my book as, yeah, I have her as the best female fighter of all time. And I know that isn't the question, but she's one of the best people. Sorry, should I say? Excuse me. One of the best sports people to ever come out of Ireland. So yeah, I think she is right up there, and for me, she is the best female fighter of all time.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Actually, I really can't. That's a very passionate and eloquent argument for it. And I do think when you first said the three names, I thought, who's he going to go with third? I was under the impression that and I was in agreement that Clarissa Shields is also in that conversation. But like you say, Serrano, you got look Serrano's multiple weight world champion, Serrano's world champion as well, as is Katie Taylor. So. And I agree with the point you're making around yesteryear. Like, it's not necessarily, sort of disrespecting those yesteryear, but the pool is bigger now. The pool's getting bigger every time. Obviously, there's more money that's gone into female boxing, so the quality has risen. So I feel like we are currently, at the current era, is the highest sort of quality that there's been in female boxing, promotion-wise, and, the names come through. There's other sort of names of fighters that aren't necessarily even we're not even talking about here, but like someone like Natasha Jonas, obviously she's out there as well, like from the UK, so that's a tremendous fighter, not even in the conversation really for the best ever, but again, a fantastic fighter as well. But I think I actually agree with you. I think I'd give it to Katie Taylor just by the sort of competition down those weights as well. And I think the fact that she edged Serrano for me probably pushes it there. But we're going to come on. I suppose we can come on to that fight actually, the first fight, because fairly wide in some cases on the scorecards. So it was just UD, but obviously it was 96, 93 quite tight, 97, 93 a bit wider, and then obviously the other way around. Sorry, the SD there. Sorry, of 94, 96. So a very very close fight. Some people saying that some people had Serrano edging it, frankly. Some people obviously had Katie Taylor. So when we come to you really and say, do you think that the SD was obviously close? Do you think that's fair? That's a fair decision? Do you think it was closer than that, even to a draw? Could you see an argument for Serrano? How did you see the first fight playing out?
Yeah, mate, I think besides the result, well, first thing you kind of want to say is that like that was in 2022, wasn't it? And that was fight of the year. That was just unbelievable. Like I think both women threw caution to the wind, kind of not necessarily left technique in the dressing room, but a little bit because they were just slugging it out for a lot. And it was that fight was on so much heart as well as talent and skill. The sheer heart that both like girls show that night was just incredible. I did have Katie Taylor winning it, but it's one of them where like it's not more than a 6-4. So it's just not.
Mm.
It's not more than a 6-4. You can see a case for the draw 100%. If it had been a draw, I don't think either would have been too disappointed. Obviously, Amanda Serrano disappointed that she didn't get the victory. I can also see it 6-4 her way. I think whatever way you're looking at it, mate, it's it's not gonna. You're not saying Katie Taylor. Well, in my opinion, you're not saying she won 7-3 or 8-2. Something like that. Think 6-4 is probably. I think looking back to that, I'm pretty sure that's the way I scored it. Maybe again, people might say that I'm coming at it from a biased point of view because I wanted Katie Taylor to win, and I did want her to win, obviously. But I think she did edge it for me. But like I said, there's no complaints if it had have been a draw. If Amanda Serrano had have been given the victory, I maybe would have felt, and a lot of people, probably over on our shores, would have felt hard done by. But equally, like if it's such a close fight, it was just so close that you can make a case for either girl winning the fight. Luckily for Katie Taylor, it was her who just did enough in the judges' eyes and won enough rounds. She was hurt though. I would say that in the first fight, I think she was hurt more than Serrano was hurt, but she just dug deep. And as we've seen countless times since, and even most notably the Chantel Cameron rematch last time out as well. But yeah, man, I think the first fight for me was a fair result, but equally, if you're going to sit and argue with me that Amanda Serrano won 6-4, I'm not gonna disregard your opinion at all. But yeah, for me, Katie Taylor just didn't know.
Yeah, I think you're hitting it on the head really by saying it was a 6-4 fight. Definitely, I actually scored it a draw. To be honest, it felt like one of those ones where it was harsh to have a loser rather than necessarily a winner. But I think
Yeah,
the momentum, there's big momentum behind Katie Taylor around that time as well. So I wasn't surprised it went to her. But I think, yeah, it definitely wasn't more than a 6-4 swing either way. Coming into this fight, I suppose, Paul. Like you mentioned the point there. Obviously, Katie Taylor's been in a couple of fights with Chantel Cameron now. Obviously, she lost the first one and then won the second one, both by majority decision. So both sort of close fights. Katie Taylor now 39 years old. Sorry, 38 years old. So Amanda Serrano slightly younger. But Serrano's obviously been campaigning at featherweight, obviously before this as well. So kind of, I suppose this fight taking place at super light. The first one was at lightweight, so obviously slightly bigger in the weights here. Does this, before going into predictions, do you think there's anything in kind of the age of Katie Taylor? Do you see any decline possibly in Katie Taylor? Do you think Serrano might get her at the right time here? Or do you still think that it's kind of a sort of split as evenly as it was in the first fight?
I think both are probably split because both you would say were probably showed their best performances around that time of the first fight. I know Amanda Serrano's been on a good run since, but I think she's maybe in her last few fights has gone the distance and maybe fought fighters that look good on paper, like Heather Hardy, for example. That's a good name on paper, but at that stage of Heather Hardy's career, I personally would have thought that Amanda Serrano would have stopped her. Didn't. Yes, she looked good, but I think you can. I think if you're saying Katie Taylor is slightly on the past her best, I think the same can be said for Serrano personally. I don't think it's a
Mm.
matter of one's washed and the other isn't. Like, I don't think either are washed, by the way. I think just naturally, given their age, they are going to be slightly past their best, but that's not at all to say that either fighter is on the decline rapidly or one more than the other. Yeah, I think both maybe were in their primes the last time, but that's not to say that we're not going to get another classic on Friday night.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, you've lent us in beautifully there to predictions now. And I'm not going to be chivalrous, Paul. I'm not going to go first. I'm going to have to ask you, revenge or repeat, Paul. How do you see this one playing out, please? Who wins? Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Super lightweight titles on the line. Who wins and how, Paul?
She said that retirement isn't on her mind, but Katie Taylor's going to win this fight. She's going to sail off into the sunset and retire as the greatest female to ever lace up a pair of gloves, one of the greatest fighters to ever lace up a pair of gloves. And yeah, I think she's going to do it. I think it would be hard to live up to the first fight in terms of action and just sheer drama, but I think it'll be another highly close contest, really close. Both fighters maybe coming at the end of the bell. Both fighters think they've won, but I think ultimately Katie Taylor will summon something up for another 20 minutes. For me, just we'll get the nod on the scorecards, and if she does sail off into the sunset, so be it. She deserves it. Yeah, I think Katie Taylor. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a split or something, but yeah, I'm just edging Katie Taylor. What about you?
You know what, Paul? I'm excited for this. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's going to be very. I think it's going to be raised close to us. I really do. I think it'll be one of those ones where both think they've won at the end. I think for me, the question for me is those have been two tough fights she had with Chantel Cameron. To be honest, Chantel Cameron's a hell of a fighter as well. So how much does Katie Taylor have left? That's the question for me. Will we see a diminish here? I hope she retires if she wins. I really do. I think she should sail off into the sunset. For me, this is going to be an anti-climax in some ways, and it's been called the Paul Kelly in the WhatsApp group. But I actually think I'm actually going to go for a draw, Paul. I can see this being that close. I think there might be a draw on the card here. I can see it being a split draw. I really can. I can see it being that close. I really struggle to pick either one of these winning it. And I think it will again be like a 6-4 or 5-5 fight. It'll be that close. I'm actually going to go for a draw. So we are divided in many ways, but not completely split. I think on how we see the fight playing out. But guys, let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with this, as well as where you position Katie Taylor as on the all-time list of female boxers, and also how you thought the result in the first fight played out. Like and subscribe to the channel, as we said at the top of the video, and follow us for other things. You've got Guevara Ramirez, CBS, all those other sort of fights coming up as well. Reviews, previews, interviews, and all that good content. But Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, and guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.